Clint Hill, the agent who tried to save John F. Kennedy. Clinton J. Hill, born January 4, 1932. He is a former U.S. Secret Service agent who served under 5 United States presidents, from Dwight D. Eisenhower to Gerald Ford. Hill is best known for his act of bravery while in the presidential motorcade on November 22, 1963, when President John F. Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas, Texas. During the assassination, Hill ran from the Secret Service follow-up car, behind the presidential limousine, leaped onto the back of it, and shielded Jacqueline Kennedy and the stricken president with his body as the car raced to Parkland Memorial Hospital. His act is documented in film footage by Abraham Zapruder. Since the death of Nellie Connolly in September 2006, Hill is the last surviving person who was in the presidential limousine that day. A number of memorable images came from those tragic few days after President John F. Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas in 1963. Lyndon B. Johnson being sworn in as the successor president on Air Force One, 3-year-old John F. Kennedy Jr. saluting his father's casket in Washington, D.C. Yet one image, taken directly after Kennedy was shot, captured the attention of news outlets all over the United States. It showed a Secret Service agent jumping onto the back of the presidential limousine to shield the president and First Lady. Wednesday, November 22, marks the 60th anniversary of the assassination. And that Secret Service agent, Clint Hill, today 91, is coming to terms with being the man who tried to save the president. Hill was assigned to First Lady Jacqueline Kennedy in 1960, an assignment that he quickly realized was much more personable than previous ones. Eisenhower, when he would refer to us agents, that was just, "Hey, agent," Hill recalled. With Kennedy, he knew your first name. He knew if you were married, he knew if you had children, and he would stop and he would talk to you. And so, we had the utmost respect for him. The day of the assassination, Kennedy was in Dallas as part of a campaigning trip for the upcoming 1964 election. The president and First Lady were met with big crowds at Dallas Love Field, where Air Force One landed. The number of onlookers only grew as the motorcade traveled through Dallas. By the time we got to Maine, the crowd was so large they could not be contained on the sidewalks, Hill recalled. People were hanging out of windows. They were on top of buildings. They were on fire escapes. Any place they could be to see the president and First Lady. Hill had been positioned on the running board of the follow-up car, just behind the presidential limousine. As the motorcade progressed through Delay Plaza, however, excitement turned to horror as Hill heard a loud noise over his right shoulder. "I didn't think at first it was a gunshot," Hill recalled. "I thought it was a firecracker or something. But when I saw the president's reaction, I knew that was not normal. I mean, he threw his hands to his throat and started to fall to his left." Hill immediately ran from the follow-up car and onto the back of the presidential limousine. As he climbed on board, there was another shot, striking the president in the head. After this shot, the First Lady climbed onto the trunk to meet Hill, who guided her back into the vehicle. Hill used his body as a shield as the presidential limousine sped toward the hospital. "I thought, this wound is not survivable," Hill recalled. "I didn't think he had a chance." In the aftermath, Hill was riddled with guilt. In his book, 5 Days in November, he recalls accompanying Jacqueline Kennedy, who was still wearing her blood-stained suit, to Johnson's swearing in aboard Air Force One. "As I look at her face, streaked with tears, her eyes so hollow and lifeless, a wave of guilt and shame washes over me," Hill recalls in the book. "How did I let this happen to her?" The feeling didn't pass in the coming years. Hill finished his stint with Jacqueline Kennedy in 1964 and went on to serve 3 more presidents afterward, but he still struggled with guilt after the assassination. "We received no counseling at all," Hill said of the Secret Service. "There was no PTSD in those days." By 1975, Hill had developed ongoing health issues related to his emotional state after the assassination. He failed his annual physical examination and was told that the Secret Service would have to retire him. Hill was 43 years old. "It was all aftermath of the Kennedy assassination," Hill recalled. "I then went into..." Hill still grapples with whether he feels comfortable being called a hero today. "Over the years, a lot of agents have said they're agents now because they saw what I did in 1963, Hill said. "But I don't take any comfort in being considered a hero." However, Hill has felt more comfortable opening up about his experience the day of the assassination and his well-being afterward. With his wife, Lisa McCubbin Hill, he has written 4 books about his days as a Secret Service agent, including a 60th anniversary edition of his book, 5 Days in November, released this month. People who have trouble with PTSD, which is what I have, the best thing they can do is find someone they trust and talk to them about what it is that's bothering them, Hill said. The more they talk about it, the better.